In today's video, we will be covering League's more offensive and defensive summoner spells. First up, Ignite. Ignite is the most offensive spell in League of Legends, and its main role is to give you greater lane and kill pressure. Ignite deals true damage to a target over 5 seconds while reducing their healing and regeneration effects by 50% for the 5 seconds. You will also be granted sight of the Ignited champion for the duration. It is incredibly good for all-in exchanges, as it is the only summoner spell that can provide extra raw damage against enemy champions. Ignite has a 210 second cooldown and 600 range. You should take Ignite when you want to have higher lane or kill pressure, or if you're against healing champions such as Soraka, Swain, or Dr. Mundo. Ignite is not as impacting in teamfights as other summoner spells such as Exhaust or Teleport, and is really just meant for killing single targets. Here is a quick lane breakup for when to take Ignite. Take Ignite as support when you want to have more kill pressure and are willing to give up Exhaust trade and peel power. Don't take Ignite as ADC unless you are incredibly comfortable with your ability to survive in lane and in teamfights, and I mean incredibly comfortable. Take Ignite in mid lane when you are playing an assassin, burst mage, or high damage carry that will benefit from the extra damage Ignite provides. Take Ignite in top lane when you want to have more kill pressure and you feel you won't need to take Teleport or a defensive summoner. I don't really suggest taking Ignite in the jungle unless you are playing a champion like Shaco who has a strong mobility skill to back it up. You can also consider taking Ignite as top, mid, or support when the enemy team has a lot of healing champions such as Dr. Mundo, Swain, or Soraka. Next up, we'll cover Exhaust. Exhaust is a summoner meant for limiting the damage of an enemy champion, and its main role is to reduce burst damage. It can be used offensively or defensively, but is mostly meant for being used defensively. Exhaust reduces the damage dealt by the target enemy champion by 40% and also reduces their attack and movement speed by 30%. It has a cooldown of 210 seconds and a range of 650. You really want to be taking Exhaust against high damage enemy champions like burst mages or assassins. If you time your Exhaust correctly, you can reduce the damage of an enemy champion's burst by 40%. This can make the difference between you or your teammates living or dying. Here's a quick lane breakup of when you want to take Exhaust. As support, take Exhaust when you want to reduce the damage output of an enemy carry such as mid laner, jungler, or enemy ADC. When playing ADC, you don't normally want to take Exhaust as you need a summoner that helps you survive immediate damage. ADC relies more on the team for protection than summoners. Taking Exhaust as a jungler is generally not advisable as you give up your mobility in exchange. I don't normally suggest taking Exhaust in top lane unless you need to reduce the burst of your lane opponent or the enemy jungler to survive. Taking Exhaust in top lane means you're giving up the global pressure of Teleport or the raw damage of Ignite. As mid lane, you can take Exhaust against high damage burst champions. If you properly time your Exhaust, you can greatly reduce the burst damage of a target. This is especially useful against assassins or burst mages whose entire kit is built around burst damage. Next up, Heal. Heal instantly restores health to you and a nearby ally while also giving you both a 30% movement speed boost for 1 second. It has a 240 second cooldown and 700 range. Because of the brief movement speed, it can be used both offensively and defensively, but its main use is defensively. Heal is meant to be taken to increase survivability over an extended trade. While it can be somewhat helpful against burst damage, it is meant for extended trades and is not as useful as Barrier against burst damage. Heal is also more useful for your teammates as it can heal you and a friendly champion. I suggest taking Heal when playing ADC or in mid lane when you need the heal and the brief movement speed boost. Remember that Heal has more utility, but is not as efficient as Barrier against raw burst. Top lane usually benefits more from Teleport or Ignite, but you can take Heal if you need the utility and HP restore to survive against your lane opponent or enemy ganks. I don't suggest taking Heal while jungling as you need a mobility summoner and smite. As support, you don't want to grab Heal unless your ADC is going Barrier or Cleanse, and you feel like you really need the heal and movement boost and are willing to give up Ignite or Exhaust. Be aware that using Summoner Heal consecutively on the same target within a cooldown period will result in the heal amount being halved. Next up, Barrier. Barrier is the immediate anti-burst summoner spell. It has a 210-second cooldown and is a self-cast ability. If timed correctly, it can negate a large portion of immediate burst damage. Barrier is meant to be taken against burst damage as it has no effect except for briefly shielding you for 2 seconds against damage. Barrier does not do well against extended damage as the duration is only 2 seconds and you do not receive any long-term effects or utility from it. I suggest taking Barrier against burst mages or assassins. Barrier is best suited for AD carries but can also be useful in mid lane. I really don't suggest taking Barrier when playing top lane jungle or support as you benefit much more from other summoner spells. Last but definitely not least of the defensive spells, Cleanse. Cleanse is the anti-crowd control summoner and is meant to be taken against high CC enemy champions or team compositions. Cleanse has a 210-second cooldown and is self-cast. It removes all blinds, charms, flees, slows, polymorphs, silences, roots, stuns, and taunts instantly. After the initial cast, Cleanse will also reduce further crowd control effects by 65% for 3 seconds. Cleanse will have no effect on suppressions, knockups or knockbacks, grabs, and fleens. I suggest taking Cleanse when you're against a large amount of crowd control from the enemy team. It provides much less survivability against actual damage, but does allow you to position yourself better to avoid damage. Cleanse is usually best used when playing AD carry. Other roles generally benefit much more from other summoners. That wraps up part 2 of summoner spells, but make sure to check out part 3 where we will cover the last of the summoner spells, the utility spells and smite.